You're looking at a text defined by dense calligraphy wrapped in intricate geometry. The Quran explicitly describes itself as mubin, a profoundly clear, self-explanatory light meant to guide humanity. Navigating this clarity requires an enormous scientific apparatus. For centuries, scholars built towering libraries of specialized literature, grammar, syntax, logic, and history to decode it. We are mapping the exact epistemological framework Islamic scholars engineered to interface with these revelations. In this tradition, exegesis operates as a cognitive technology. It is a vital system designed to map a finite, localized text onto infinite, universal contexts. A literal translation often fails to capture the intended meaning. The text relies heavily on intentional structural brevity and the unspoken cultural context of its 7th century audience. Early scholars realized they needed a systematic methodology to bridge this gap, a way to strictly separate what the text literally says from what it ultimately intends. This requirement produced a 2-layered decoding technology, tafsir for surface-level disambiguation and ta'wil for deep structural extraction. Relying solely on a surface reading freezes the scripture in the past, rendering it unable to govern future scenarios. Without this 2-layered framework, reading the text literalistically leads to historical misapplication and profound theological error. Understanding this framework requires looking at the deepest architectural level of the Arabic language, its triliteral roots. The root letters S, F, R describe revealing something physical, like lifting a veil or seeing the morning sun. The reversed root, FSR, governs the extraction of abstract intellectual meaning. Placed into the tafil verb form, we arrive at the word tafsir. In Arabic grammar, the tafil form serves as a specific marker for extreme intensity, repetition, and immense effort. The grammar defines the process. Tafsir is a hyperactive, labor-intensive excavation of logic. In practice, tafsir resolves the zahir, the apparent literal surface meaning of the text. It resolves archaic jargon from pre-Islamic Arabia, language that remains otherwise impenetrable to a modern audience. Consider the term nasi. Tafsir explains this as the obsolete practice of intercalating the sacred months to gain a strategic advantage in warfare. It also decodes bahira, a defunct classification of camels based on highly specific breeding patterns. By defining these terms, tafsir securely anchors the text to its original historical and physical environment of 7th century Arabia. This step solves the historical distance, but leaves the reader with a localized text that cannot, on its surface, govern a globalized future. If a legal or ethical rule is only understood within its specific 7th century context, it ceases to function as a universal law. This necessitates the second mechanism, ta'wil. Its purpose is to extract the batin, the secondary, inner, or hidden meaning. The word derives from the root awl, meaning to return a thing to its source, or to reach its ultimate destination. Rather than stopping at the surface, ta'wil operates through a highly structured, falsifiable, and deeply rigorous protocol of logical extraction. Tafsir asks, what exactly did this mean back then? Ta'wil asks, what is the universal truth this points to forever? To prevent subjective opinion, scholars employ a rigorous logical framework, sibr and taqsim, the process of filtering and categorization. The foundational rule is the lesson lies in the phrasing's universality, not the event. We can feed a specific case study into this framework, Surah Al-Qasas, verse 17. The prophet Musa pledges to God after accidentally killing a man with his immense physical strength. The filtering process systematically removes localized historical identifiers, the specific person, Musa, and the specific location, ancient Egypt. What remains at the bottom is a standalone core axiom: those granted power must never aid the corrupt. This extracted axiom is universally legally binding, applicable to modern politicians, scholars, and scientists, entirely divorced from the historical figure of Musa. Sibr and Taqsim ensures academic integrity by forcing scholars to explicitly justify which historical variables they are discarding to reach a universal law. Transitioning from the mechanics of extraction, we arrive at the final ontological debate. What is the ultimate reality of a ta'wil? The scholar Ibn Taymiyyah argued that ta'wil is the actual physical realization of the text in the external world. He used the analogy of a dream. The ta'wil of a dream is the actual real-world event that eventually takes place, rather than merely the spoken interpretation of it. In this view, seeing the physical Kaaba and performing the pilgrimage rites is the ultimate ta'wil of the verses, the text manifesting as lived reality. Contrast this with Tabatabai's view. Ta'wil is an elevated, pre-existing conceptual reality from which the text originally descended. Whether viewed as a future physical event or an elevated spiritual truth, ta'wil proves the text is designed to actively govern reality, not just describe it. We bring the two halves of the system, tafsir and ta'wil, together into a single unified model. Tafsir prevents historical drift by locking down exact lexical meanings of 7th century Arabia. Ta'wil prevents obsolescence by refracting those locked meanings into infinite future ethical scenarios. This specific dual-engine architecture allows the text to remain immutably fixed, yet eternally dynamic. Islamic exegesis functions as a precision intellectual instrument designed to continuously decode a framework for all of reality.